Okay, how to squat, the video. We're gonna do barbell back squats today, high bar, low bar, box squats. So it's good for people that have never squatted before, people who've done it a little bit, maybe you just don't know what you're doing. I got you. Okay. So when you're doing a barbell back squat, you want the bar set at about chest level. For hand positioning, I would suggest putting your hands at the rings to start off with. If you've got quite tight shoulders, you're gonna need to go wider, but largely speaking, you want it as narrow as possible so you can get as tight as possible. And what we're gonna do is where the bar is gonna sit on our back here, we're trying to create as much tension in our upper back as possible to keep those structures nice and rigid. So when I get underneath it, if I'm gonna do what's called a high bar back squat, which just means the bar is higher up on my back, start it on your neck, which obviously you don't want to squat in, and then roll it down until you're kind of sitting on top of your traps here. So you want to be on your traps and your shoulders. Once you're feeling that you're pulling the bar down and you're tensing all of those structures, you brace, you take a deep breath in, tense your abs, and stand up. From here, this is your point to realize maybe I'm a little bit off center of the bar. This is the point that you would then maybe go back down, readjust, but otherwise you're good to go. Step out and take your stance. Now, stance can vary person to person. A good place to start is heels shoulder width. Point your toes out. When we're squatting, we're bringing both our knees forward and our hips backwards. So at the top, we take a big brace, and then we're gonna squat down until our hip crease is below our knees. And then we stand up. You don't have to do a little pause there. I'm just demonstrating. So again, big brace at the top, knees go forward, hips go back, all the way until you reach depth, and then you're up. So that's the squat. And then you stroll forward, hit both sides, bend your legs, and you're good to go. So some things to note. The squat, think of it as two parts. Your descent, you're trying to keep the bar over the center of your foot, okay? So it's a balancing act to get straight down into the perfect position, and then your ascent, which is obviously the second part, you're gonna be in a lower, your torso angle has changed. I've got a bit of an angle here. So I'm not just standing up, I'm pushing backwards to make sure that that bar path is just a straight line. So this bar path, you'll notice I'm wearing lifting shoes here, AKA squat shoes. These have a built-in wedge to help my knees go over my toes to get into a nice upright position. Presuming that you're watching this because you don't really know what you're doing squatting, this is a good alternative. This is a squat wedge. If your gym doesn't have one of those, no problem. Just take a 10 kilo bumper plate and stand on it, like so. Or you can take two smaller bumper plates and use it to elevate your heels. But generally speaking, a lot of people, especially if you've got an office job, have very tight ankles. So it's a good idea to elevate your ankles to make sure that you get into a nice upright position. Depending on the torso angle when you're at the bottom of a squat, that's going to dictate which muscles we're using more of when you're squatting. So the more upright you're squatting, the more you're going to be using your quads. And then likewise, the more bent over I am, the more I'm going to be loading my hamstrings, glutes, and back, and also my hips when I'm going wide with my legs. So there's quite a lot of different mechanics you can have when you're squatting. I just demonstrated the high bar squat, the low bar squat, which generally suits most folk who've got quite long femurs, or if you've just got a stronger posterior chain. Grip-wise, again, experiment with it. One thing to note as well is try to not have too much of a bend in your wrist. So if you're setting up and your palm is all the way underneath here, you're gonna be hurting your wrist here. It's not the end of the world, but try to avoid it. So for a low bar squat, I'm gonna start again on the neck. I'm gonna roll it down. This would be where I high bar squat, and then it's just a little bit further. So the bar is now resting on the back of my shoulders. Those are my rear delts for the anatomy nerds. The same thing with my lats or with my grip. I'm going to be trying to pull the bar down and across my back to tense all of those muscles in my upper back to create a nice rigid structure for the bar to sit on. So from here, I'm going to brace and stand up. Strolling back, take your time, get your stance. And then from there, it's the exact same thing. Big brace, knees out, hips back. And because I'm in a low bar position, you'll notice that my torso is a little lower to the ground than it was when the bar was higher up my back. So this is going to put a little bit more strain on my posterior chain. That's my hamstrings, my glutes, and my back. Knowing the mechanics of what you're trying to achieve with the squat can influence what muscles you're actually developing. So then that way you can keep progressing with your squats and then using different squatting mechanics to help develop your strength and physique overall. Hitting sufficient depth is one of the most important things that you can do in your squatting, because your mechanics and therefore your position when you're lifting influences which muscles are being activated and what forces are being output at the same time. The other side of that is if you have the mobility to squat to depth, you should do it, and don't be a fucking coward. So if you've never squatted before, I like to get people doing a box squat. Presuming your gym doesn't have one of these, you can use multiple bumper plates. So maybe like 3 bumper plates, 325 kilo plates to sit on. And what you're trying to do is get a structure that's nice and rigid to, when you're sitting down on it, your hip crease is below your knees. So you know now when you make it onto this box, you're at depth and you can start training it. That could just look like some bodyweight squats to start off with, then work yourself up to the bar, depending on how strong you are when you're watching this. So if I go for a box squat with the low bar position, again, starting on the neck, going a little bit lower here, getting nice and tight on my back, making sure that my whole upper back is tight. I'm pulling down on the bar to get my lats engaged. Now my whole back is working. I'm bracing, standing up, stroll back. You generally want your heels kind of touching this. And then from there, it's a brace. Get yourself down there. Go vertical, forward, and up. So getting down, keeping the brace, finding that vertical position, going forward where you landed again, and then coming straight up and not letting the momentum take you forward. So a box squat is a great place to start. I would recommend doing that for 4 to 8 weeks just to get used to it, train yourself down to depth. If you can't quite make it down to full depth, you could put another 10 kilo bumper on that or a slightly higher box, but make sure that you're trying to progressively get your depth to hip crease being below your knees. This is distinct from a squat 2 box. So same position where I'm just going to use the box as a guide for depth. So it's just going to be a touch and go. So you're not letting any tension go out from your legs. You're just touching and get out of there. So really that's the back squat. 2 positions, high bar, low bar. Box squats are a great place to start. If you've never done them before, then progress to a squat 2 box and then just go into free squatting. And then remember, when we're squatting, you're always trying to keep that bar centralized on the middle of your foot. You're bracing the bottom, bracing. The descent is a balancing act to get yourself into that perfect position with a bar over midfoot, and then your ascent, you're trying to keep the bar path as 2D as possible. I think in a separate video, I will cover front squats, goblet squats, and alternatives, but this, for now, is enough for a back squat. So get squatting, don't be a fucking coward. Catch you soon.